Good morning, everyone. I'm John Burlingham, the Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Welcome to our monthly virtual breakfast meeting here at the venue Uptown in Kingston. Please join with me now in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. A special thanks to County Executive Pat Ryan for being our guest speaker this morning. On behalf of the Chamber Board of Directors and staff, I'd like to invite all Chamber members to take part in our upcoming virtual events. These are outstanding opportunities to showcase your business or organization. Our next event is the Chamber's Virtual Business Card Exchange, which will be held 1 week from today, Tuesday, April 27th, starting at 9 a.m. Business card exchanges are limited to just 40 Chamber members. We'll give everyone who attends 2 to 3 minutes to promote their business to everyone on the Zoom call, as well as others viewing our live stream on the Chamber's Facebook page. Space is limited, and registration is required. So head over to our website, ulsterchamber.org, and register today. Again, that's April 27th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Next month, the Chamber will be hosting our first in-person business card exchange in more than 1 year. This is one event that you don't want to miss. Mark down the date and time, Friday, May 21st, starting at 9 a.m., and it will take place right here in the spacious banquet room at Venue Uptown in Kingston. We'll be following all correct protocols. Everyone who attends will need to wear masks and practice social distancing. 10 tables will be spread around the room with a limit of 4 people at each table. The Venue Uptown will also be offering a complimentary continental breakfast. Plan on joining us for this great in-person networking event and grow your business. Attendance is limited and advance registration is required. Again, that's 9 to 10:30 a.m. on May 21st. With the focus on enjoying activities outdoors, the Chamber has a timely and informative virtual breakfast meeting scheduled for May 25th. The theme for the morning is Ulster County offers world-class outdoor recreational opportunities. And our guest speakers will include Kevin Case, President and CEO of Mohonk Preserve, Elizabeth Waldstein, Executive Director of Walkway Over the Hudson, and Lisa Berger, Director of Ulster County Tourism, who will be talking about our great outdoor trails. We hope you can join us virtually on the Chamber's Facebook page or on YouTube at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 25th. To our sponsor, Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, and to Radio Kingston for their technical support. Finally, it's now time to nominate your favorite business, business leader, or organization for the 2021 Ulster County Business Awards celebration. The nomination form is already up on our website, so fill out a nomination today. We're looking forward to honoring the top business person, business of the year, small business, tourism or hospitality business of the year, emerging young professional, best not-for-profit agency, best multi-generational business, and we'll also announce the recipient of the Len Kane Heart of Ulster County Award. The celebration will take place in the fall, but your nominations should be submitted as soon as possible. For all these Chamber events, you can find more information at ulsterchamber.org. And if you're not currently a member of the Chamber, let me personally invite you to join our family. I urge you to contact our Director of Membership, Jess Davis, at the Chamber office, 845-338-5100, or fill out a membership application online. Now for the rest of our program this morning, here's Ward Todd.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone, and we thank you so much for being part of our program today. I will tell you again this month that it is the most bizarre feeling to look at this huge banquet room and not see our 300 Chamber members assembled. But we will be here soon in person, and we look forward to that. Want to thank our guest speaker, Pat Ryan, for being with us today, with Tim Wiedemann, Director of Economic Development for Ulster County. I also want to thank our good friends at Sawyer Savings Bank, our sponsor today, celebrating their 150th year, which is a very, very cool feat. It has been a very, very busy first quarter and more for the Chamber's membership team. I want to thank Jess Davis and Carol Ricken and our amazing volunteers who've made that happen. And I'd like to introduce Jess Davis at this point to come up and say good morning to a host of new Chamber members. Jess.
Good morning, Ulster County. What a beautiful day it's going to be. Let me get my notes here. It's always a good thing when I have a lot of new members to welcome. So I'll just get started without further ado. We want to welcome Maria Auden, Energy and Environment Consultants, Archaeology and Historic Services. The Bear Cantina out in the beautiful Woodstock. Valerie Blatter is the manager there. A home-based business out of Highland, Bella's Home Baked Goods. We welcome Deanna Brault. Sea Build Interiors, you might know her, Carrie Bono. She does a beautiful job with interior design. We welcome you, Carrie. Christina's Restaurant, Liz and Pete Kiriakos. We welcome you. Christina's is located out on Albany Avenue in the town of Ulster. Next, we have the Chris Bowers Agency, newly opened and headquartered out of Kingston with some satellite locations coming as far as Austin, Texas. And Chris will be happy to help you with your insurance needs. Real Estate and Development, Stefan Bodenwise at Cornerstone Property Management. Another one that you probably all know, we welcome Freddie, Nick, Evan, and family, and Dallas Hot Wieners with 4 locations locally. Dante's Pizza coming soon in Saugerties, Salvatore Guido. We welcome Dante's Pizza. And I was there just the other day, Delaware Valley Job Corps outside of Ulster County, yet with a footprint in Ulster County. We welcome Jason Noggle and the team at Delaware Valley Job Corps. It's a trade school, and they're looking to help the underemployed, the undereducated get into good trade jobs. Really great programs there. Our favorite thing to talk about, Dream Dogs Training Center, coming soon in the process. Lots of new members that aren't even open yet joining. So Andy Turco-Levine, we wish you the best with Dream Dogs Training Center. We can't wait for your ribbon cutting. And we're going to take it to J.K. Sons Fuel Oil, John Kowach and Family Heating Company and Supplies. Next, celebrating 20 years right here in the city of Kingston, Joe B's Famous Sandwiches. And we have Judy Craig Hypnotherapy, a certified hypnotherapist. Jared Keplinger with Security and Private Investigation, Liberty Security Services. One Last Tag coming soon in the town of Ulster, Retail and Consignment, that's Kate Still. And I will be here later today. The original Mickey's Igloo, we welcome Jeff Bagando and family. Rice Plumbing and Heating with a new location in Boyceville. We cannot wait to cut the ribbon with you. And we have Teresa Pleva, Accounting, T-Money. VetCore Services of the Hudson Valley with mold removal and prevention. And Violet's Bakery in Saugerties. We're all over Ulster County. We welcome Sina Clark. She's located in Partition Street, and she typically sells out before the end of the day. Last but not least, we welcome Berardi Realty. You may have seen the new office here in Uptown Kingston. Congratulations to you, Greg Berardi. If you're not yet a member, please get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I've got my phone. You can email. However you need to get in touch, I'll be happy to tell you more about the Ulster Chamber and welcome you to our family. Have a great morning. Enjoy this presentation.
Thank you, Jess. Jess is famous for welcoming new members and for Jess Delicious as well. Check out on Facebook if you haven't seen her videos yet. Today's virtual breakfast meeting is sponsored by our good friends at Sawyer Savings Bank. Sawyer Savings Bank is sponsoring our program as part of their year-long celebration of their 150th anniversary. Founded in 1871, Sawyer Savings has maintained its continued emphasis on customers, communities, and employees. From their founding as a mutual savings bank and a shared office on Main Street in Saugerties, they've grown to a community institution employing 45 team members with 3 branch locations, Saugerties, Highland, and in Marlborough. Their philosophy remains the same. They are here to serve their customers and help the region thrive. Shop local, eat local, bank local is more than just a catchphrase at Sawyer Savings. Small businesses and banks like Sawyer are the heartbeat of any community. This time I'd like to welcome Sawyer Savings Bank President Douglas Sturgis, and we thank you, Doug, for your support of the Chamber of Commerce this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Boy, is it great to be here and to be out. It would be nice to have everybody here eating breakfast with us, like Ward mentioned, but everybody get your vaccine, and I'm sure Ward will make that happen soon. I wanted to thank Ward for allowing me a couple minutes to speak this morning. As Ward mentioned, Sawyer Savings is celebrating a 150-year anniversary this year. 150 years is a big deal. Just take a moment to think about how long that is. We're talking pre-automobiles, pre-World Wars, pre-pandemic, the 1918 version, and you're talking about going to the bank on horseback. That's a pretty big deal. A lot has changed over the last 150 years. But Sawyer Savings' commitment to support the communities that we serve has not changed. One of the ways Sawyer Savings is celebrating our 150-year anniversary this year is we've committed to $150,000 of donations to local charities. There are a lot of awesome organizations in Ulster County, and it is our honor to help them achieve their goals. Another way that we're celebrating our anniversary is our recommitment to the first-time homebuyer product. We did an analysis and determined that we needed to increase the maximum loan amount on the first-time homebuyer product. So we've increased that maximum loan to $300,000 and to make the product more relevant. We're very proud of this product. We've put over 150 people in their first-time homes in Ulster County. So that's pretty important to us. We're also going to work with Pat Ryan and his team on climate change. Everyone can take a part in slowing climate change. You don't have to solve the whole problem. You just have to do what you can. So Sawyer is going about trying to find ways to be a better corporate citizen. We're also making life a little bit easier for our small businesses in Ulster County. We offer a 30-year commercial amortization for commercial real estate loans. And this allows payments to be lower, monthly payments to be lower, and allows small business people to reinvest in their enterprise. We can only develop these products, these creative niche products, because we're a mutual bank. And the wonderful thing about being a mutual bank is the goal of any management team of a mutual bank is to just turn that bank over to the next management team, a stronger, more resilient bank. And if we maintain that goal, what we call the forever bank, if we maintain that goal, we plan on being here for another 150 years. The last 13 months have been a difficult time by any measure. I think everyone would agree to that. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Ward Todd and Pat Ryan for their leadership in getting Ulster County through this pandemic. This has been a very difficult time, and they have been very creative in their methods, and they did a fantastic job getting the county through this pandemic, and the county is still thriving, which is awesome. So thank you, gentlemen.
Doug, thank you for those kind remarks. Our pleasure today is to introduce our Ulster County executive. We have had, as Doug was mentioning, the most challenging 13 months. And I find it, I guess, more than ironic, right, that Pat took office, 3 months before the pandemic, began his first 4-year term, and what challenges lay ahead. Anyway, we want to talk to him today about his, give him a chance to talk about his vision for Ulster County for the future. We also wanted to take this chance to thank him for his steady leadership during these past unprecedented 13 months. He had the foresight to create Project Resilience so those most in need would have food on their tables, and for working hand in glove with our local restaurants and other local small businesses so they could keep their doors open during the pandemic. I think it's clear the largest threat to our safety other than the virus itself was the fear of the unknown. And so understanding that, he kept us all informed and educated with his twice-weekly live updates on social media. It has been quite a year. To find out more about his experiences in the last year and his look ahead, please welcome our Ulster County Executive, Pat Ryan. Pat?
Good morning, everyone. And I'll echo that it is definitely weird to be in this room and not have you all here in person, but I'm glad we're making this work, and a huge credit, Ward, to you and Jess and the whole team for really, as Doug eloquently said, being one of the main places that people could turn, especially our business community, our small business community, could turn for information, for support, and just for honestly human contact and connection in this last year. It's exciting to be with you all as spring kind of comes into full effect here. I think we're at a really important moment and inflection point in terms of not just responding and recovering from the pandemic, but really turbocharging and accelerating our economic recovery coming out of the pandemic and into the rest of 2021 and hopefully many more good years to come. So that's what myself and my colleague Tim are here to talk about with you all today. Before we dive into that, Doug, I just want to thank you for your leadership and for everything that Sawyer Savings does for our community. The historical perspective that you brought in your remarks, I think is really important for us to keep in mind, not just in terms of how much change we've gone through and how, as a community, we've figured out how to navigate that change and find opportunity and find chances to sort of get better and to work together. And you guys have really been a backbone of that in the community, and your leadership this last year as well has been exceptional in your team. So thank you for your commitment in the past and now and in the future. Having organizations like you all really are a key part of what I think makes Ulster County so special. So thank you. We're gonna use some slides here. Anybody that watches the Facebook updates knows that I'm a data person and like to use some slides. So we're gonna do that. I do want to also thank Radio Kingston, who doesn't get nearly enough love for all the work that they do to help so many organizations communicate and connect throughout this last year. So thank you all for being here this morning as well. I'm going to introduce things, but really lean heavily on Tim Wiedemann, who's our Director of Economic Development, also the President of our Economic Development Alliance, the EDA. Rule number one of leadership that I learned in the Army is hire people smarter than you and empower them to do good things, and that's exactly what Tim has been doing and will continue to do. So we're going to kind of tag team this presentation as best we can in the COVID dynamics we're in, so we'll kind of do a step up, step back here, and forgive us as we work that through. I'll ask the Radio Kingston team to help with the slides. Just to give a little bit of perspective, I was going back to see the last time that I was here with you all. It was February of 2020. We were about to get hit with a pandemic, but I think at that point we really had no idea what was coming for us in many dimensions. And I actually stood in front of 200-300 people and talked about this Ulster 2040 plan that we had outlined to make sure that as we make investments in our economy, that we do it with a real thoughtful view 20 years out, so that the next generation can reap the benefits of those investments, and that we can all kind of coordinate and orient around that 2040 vision. I think it was very fortuitous that we started that work before the pandemic. We continued that work throughout the pandemic, and with a great group of people on our 2040 task force, we, even in the midst of the challenges of the last year, produced this Ulster 2040 report. And that work that we've done together, I think now puts us in a position as we come into the spring to really hit the ground running and accelerate our economic recovery. Because I think at a time of instability and challenge, those who move quickly and deliberately and smartly and are willing to take some risk stand to gain great benefit. And I think that's exactly what Ulster County is ready to do, with everybody here working together to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. The last thing I'll just say in queuing it up is that Ulster County is about to receive significant federal funding through the American Rescue Plan, and the idea, a big part of the idea for us to invest those funds, is to really use that as additional fuel to put on our sort of the fire of our economic engine, and even more rapidly accelerate our economy here in the county. So that'll be another tool that we have to use. Before we talk about what we're going to do going forward, I do want to set the stage a little bit and talk about the moment that we find ourselves in. And so the challenge that I think we faced pre-pandemic was overall economic growth and success, but not seeing those gains evenly distributed across an increasingly large amount of our county. And I've talked a lot about this. There have been a series of reports and analyses done by different groups, from the United Way's ALICE report, Asset Limited Income Constrained and Employed, ALICE, which means people that are working but not able to pay the bills and make ends meet, even though they're working one or more jobs, to a great report from Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress called Out of Alignment that came out just before the pandemic hit, that talks about many of the mismatches in our labor markets, our educational and workforce development pipeline, and many other challenges that we're facing, as well as our housing challenges. And that was all pre-pandemic. And then you look at what the pandemic did, and without getting too wonky on the theory, because I am not an economist, there's the way that I think about it is essentially we came in with a significant degree of inequality, and coming out of the pandemic, we've seen what economists have called a K-shaped recovery, where basically those that were already doing well have essentially recovered, but those that were struggling before the pandemic are struggling much, much worse now, and you see a real growing divide between them, and that is not good for anybody. Of course, not good for those that are struggling, but also not good for those who are running businesses, for whom we need everybody participating in the economy. The last piece of context that I want to share is a chart here that has a lot of numbers on it that talks about how much income people are making in the county. This compares 2010 and 2018 income for 5 different groups across the county. And without going too deeply, I'll let you digest it for a second, but basically what you see is that those struggling the most among us, those in the lowest quintile of our economy, have had a negative 14% reduction in their income in the last 8 years. That's, again, pre-pandemic, and we know that's worse. The only people doing better in the last 10 years in our county are the top 20%, that highest quintile, and they gained 6% in income, and the top 5% gained 9%. So again, that's just setting the table to recognize that as we grow, we have to also make sure we bring everybody with us, and also to show that 80% of our county have not enjoyed a lot of the gains, at least when it comes to income, that we've seen at the high level of our economy, and that just isn't going to work over time. So we believe, and we're going to talk about what this new way is, we believe we need a new way. It's not to say that what we've done in the past hasn't worked, because over many decades and most of my lifetime, we have seen things get better, GDP go up, our society increase, lots of gains, but we're reaching an inflection point, as that data shows, where more and more the wealth gaps are increasing, real wages shrinking, life expectancy has even begun to decline, and environmental issues are more and more problematic. And so we believe we need a different approach, which is really a people-centered approach. And Tim's going to talk a little bit more about that people-centered approach that we outlined in our Ulster 2040 report for a moment, and then we're going to go a level deeper and talk about our specific investments and specific initiatives that we're undertaking now and will be undertaking to address the challenge in front of us. So Tim, please come on up.
Thank you, Pat, and thanks for being willing to share the mic. It's a little complicated, but it's good to be here and to talk with you all and to kind of give a little bit more detail on some of the things that I've been out talking with business groups and community members for the last year or so. We've been rolling out this Ulster 2040 process that concluded, as Pat mentioned, during the pandemic, and now I think see a lot of progress ahead. And so a people-centered economy was the title of the final report that we came out of that group with, and it speaks to a lot of the challenges that the county executive just outlined, really defining people as the engine of our economy. Obviously, as the head of our economic development office, I work a lot with businesses, and our goal is to support our businesses in the county, but ultimately the success of those businesses depends on the success of our people, whether those are our business owners, employees, and ultimately the residents of Ulster County, and making sure that they're able to benefit from the economic activity that our businesses undertake. So we really sought to redefine what success means in our economic development and really turned it into a measure of how successful we are to be able to make people thrive here in Ulster County. And we need to engage in new ways in order to accomplish that success. So the link to the report, if you want to go back one slide, Radio Kingston folks, at the bottom of the slide there's a link to the full report that you can read if you'd like a little bit deeper dive in all this stuff. We're going to skim the surface and then really spend the rest of the time talking about the things we're doing day in and day out today and throughout the year to try to accomplish some of the goals in that report. But if we go to the next slide, I just want to highlight that one of the things that came out of that process was a real focus on 4 new industry clusters, and then a recognition that our economic development work intersects with a lot of other work that the county does and that our partners and other agencies do. And so we decided to focus on these 5 industries, 5 clusters. The first, agriculture, food, and beverage. I'll dive into each of these as we go through, but they're all important because they speak to the cultural values of our community, the things that we've been successful at in the past, and that we really feel we're positioned as a county to succeed at in the future. I'm going to dive into these, but then I think, Pat, we can take turns kind of speaking to the things that we're doing. Obviously, a lot of it is work that we do in the Office of Economic Development, but we have a big county with lots of departments that focus on these efforts too, and so we'll speak to some of the partnerships and collaborations that we're doing within the county in order to pursue these, but also rely on partners like the Chamber and our local banks and other businesses in our community to help us to accomplish the goals of the report. I'll dive into each cluster and we'll talk about some of the things that we're doing. The first that I'll speak to is our artists, creators, and makers cluster. This was one that, as we were working with the Ulster 2040 working group, we decided that we needed a name that really represented the diversity, and you can see it on the slide here. It's a little busy, but that's because there's just so many businesses that fall into this niche of really working hard day in and day out to create things of value, and that can be physical goods, and it can be digital goods, it can be experiences, but we have such a rich community of businesses that have a passion for making things. And so the term artists, creators, and makers, that phrase is meant to capture that broader network. This obviously includes our traditional manufacturers as well, because manufacturing is difficult anywhere in New York State. It's not the cheapest and easiest place to do manufacturing, so those that choose to do it here have a passion for what they do, and we want to recognize that. They have a passion, but they're also really challenged right now by workforce issues. This was true even before the pandemic, and we're hearing it more and more. We have engaged with the Council of Industry in a partnership to really understand what our manufacturers need in order to recover and to pivot from the pandemic. And it looks like the biggest challenge that they and other businesses are facing is about finding the right people to fill open positions to make sure that they're able to grow. I'm excited to announce that we're working with the Council of Industry and our partners at SBDC, SUNY Ulster, and the SBA on a new program that we're tentatively calling a fast-track workforce platform that will help to be able to identify the jobs that are available in these manufacturers and related businesses, identify the skills that they need both for entry-level positions and experienced positions to be able to start recruiting the candidates that can fill those positions. We're in the midst of a large workforce shift following the pandemic, as some occupations will recover quicker than others, and we see a real opportunity here for our manufacturing employers to pick up employees from other sectors that may be struggling to recover. And ultimately, those manufacturing careers can be really sustainable careers, again, speaking to the wage issues that the county executive talked about, providing ways for people to earn a better living here in Ulster County. We'll be announcing more about this in the future and really would encourage our manufacturing businesses to join us. We'll be hosting a workshop to talk more about this in early May, and we'll send out details soon on that, and hope that folks can join us, share their job openings, and help us to create a pool of talent that can fill those positions. We're also physically building this cluster. A little bit here about some projects that are underway. We're really excited to see some of these projects actually come to conclusion in the last few months. The Fuller Building on the left there, this is Dutton Architecture and key tenant Exago, a software manufacturer, software developer here in Ulster County that have taken occupancy in this building. This is the River Radiology Building in Midtown Kingston, for those that don't know the Fuller Building. But an exciting realization that there's really appetite for this kind of commercial office space and flex space, even in the heart of Midtown Kingston, and we see that as a signal of some opportunity throughout the county. The Metro, those that have been following this was Stockade Works as the key tenant. I think that's evolved now. Luckily, we have Upriver Studios where Stockade Works has taken a presence, but we continue to see interest in the Metro building and progress on developing that. And ultimately, a model that the folks may be familiar with also in Midtown Kingston, the Arc of Ulster Green, transformed one of their buildings into the Cornell Creative Center and are looking to do something similar up in Ellenville to create a digital printing center. So a lot of physical activity too in this makers and creators cluster, creating the spaces that allow people to continue to build their businesses here in Ulster County. I'll take a pause for a second, and Pat, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to our work at the former IBM site in Tech City. We're excited. I think folks have been probably following along with some of the progress that we're making on transitioning that, but I think we really see this as a hub for our makers and creators as well, and some interesting submissions that we received in the last few months as we've been seeking expressions of interest for the site.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, and again, I think what we're going to do here, just to give you a sense of how the talk's going to go for the next few minutes, we're going to look at each of these clusters that Tim mentioned and talk through sort of where we are and one or two of the major initiatives, and then also talk about the investments we're making at a foundational level as a county to try to position each of these industry clusters for success, not just immediately, not just coming out of the pandemic, but really looking 10, 20, and more years out. So we believe, and I believe, that building and investing in sort of a real infrastructure layer in these clusters and across the county is going to be one of the key tenets coming out of the COVID pandemic and into our economic recovery, especially as a local government. We believe that making those foundational infrastructure investments is a key part of what our role in driving the recovery. So to that end, we have, as many of you have heard me talk about before, and I've spoken with many of you about, we have this sort of blank canvas in the former IBM site that, at least for me, is extremely exciting, but also daunting in many ways, and Tim and I reflect on that often. What we all know, to Doug's points about the history of our county and community and our economy, we know that IBM site really served as putting the county on the front line, the front edges of what was the emerging, leading part of the economy in the country in terms of the information technology and personal computing and electronics industry that became the big growth driver across the country. And having IBM here in the county and in the region put us on the map and put us at that really front edge of that wave and created opportunity and prosperity for many. And so now We know we are not on that front edge of that, and we know that new things are emerging, and we believe strongly that these 4 clusters are, at least one or more of them will be what serve as that next version of the information technology and telecommunications revolution. So we want to create a place at the former IBM site that really serves as the sort of beating heart of that future economy here in the county and in the region. And so the first step was to just actually get control back of the beginnings of some of that property, frankly, from an owner that has not had, I think, aligned incentives with our county in terms of making real investment and wanting to see something great happen there. So we, as a county, were able to foreclose on and ultimately now take control of 2 parcels on the western part of that campus and begin a lot of great work and thinking and brainstorming for what we can do there. Just last month, the county legislature unanimously approved the transfer of that property, which we're now calling Enterprise West, into our Economic Development Alliance, which Tim leads, and a great group of folks, including Ward, sit on the board of that. And we're making the IBM property really the centerpiece of the EDA's efforts and energy coming into this year and in subsequent years. So the first step that we took was just to kind of engage the community and the market and say, are there great ideas out there? And I'll be honest, I kind of stunned and very pleasantly surprised at the amount, both the volume and the quality of responses that we got back. Dozens of really high quality ideas from very established and successful and exciting potential partners. Tim's going to talk more about that in a moment, but I think to me that was real validation that we have something here, that people beyond us are excited about this and wanting to put capital to work and energy to work. And so Tim's going to talk through some of the specific responses we got there, but what I'll say before he does that is I know there are more good ideas and more folks out there, both in our immediate community and possibly in the region or even nationally, who might be excited about what's happening at the former IBM site. So one of my asks for you all watching today is to please get the word out that we're doing great and cool and exciting things at this site, and that we want more folks at the table, and please help spread that word. But Tim can talk about some of the responses that we got and sort of how that has begun to set at least an initial direction for what we're going to do at the site.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think maybe bring the slide for Hub for Makers and Creators up, and this gives you a sense of some of the submissions that really fall into that bucket of makers and creators. BSP, for one, as a performance venue, Bridge Arts and Education that joins with an educational program for youth. Bard College has expressed some interest in presence at the site, and there's a kind of group of artists and musicians that are calling themselves Blueprint that folks may have seen an Instagram page that's popped up recently. This is a group of folks that see this site as an ideal hub for artists and musicians in the community, ultimately providing them with accessible space and helping to envision the future of these buildings as a way to support our arts and cultural institutions in the area. And that kind of cluster of makers and creators is just one of 2 real clusters that have expressed interest in the building and the properties. I'll switch to our agriculture, food, and beverage cluster, which is another one of the focus clusters coming out of Ulster 2040, and you know, again, represents a really rich and diverse set of businesses here in Ulster County. Historical strength for us as a county, but one that we see as having tremendous opportunity in the next couple of decades to build out in a way that it hasn't been able to in the past. So really adding value from the agricultural products that are produced here in Ulster County all the way through the processing of those products and the creation of food products that are shelf stable and that can be consumed either here locally or shipped out of our region. and ultimately providing access for those foods and manufactured goods to enter into our industrial and institutional food systems. And so the next slide really shows this value chain that we're trying to build here in Ulster County. Everything from those agricultural products that are grown on a farm to the way that they're processed and handled and turned into food products, to the way that they're distributed, and ultimately trying to gain access to either the retail establishments, the restaurants, the groceries, but also the institutional buyers like hospitals, schools, and institutions. And the exciting thing about the Enterprise West site, the former IBM site, is that there's also interest there for this to become a hub for these agricultural uses. So we also received submissions in that RFEI process from organizations like the Farm Hub, which does growing in the Rondout Valley and is interested as they build out a kind of small grains trial where we're trying to reestablish grain production in the Hudson Valley, and they've kind of built that out. There's now an opportunity for a grain mill. There's a need for a grain mill, and so they've proposed a grain mill at the site. We've seen excitement from local brewers and distillers, and excitement from the Farm Bridge as one example of a food processor who takes local food products and value adds and produces food products out of those agricultural outputs, which provides value for the farmers and then also provides a way to get that local food into institutions. And so a lot of interesting submissions to express interest in that site, the former IBM site, to look at how it could be used for our agriculture, food, and beverage cluster as well. And so, as the county executive mentioned, this is something where we see a continued opportunity for folks to express interest. You can reach out to our Office of Economic Development. There'll be a link on the last slide here, and tell us about what you think should happen at that site. And we'll be engaging through the board of directors of the Ulster County Economic Development Alliance to decide on the next steps that we'll take. It'll probably be a multi-step process. It's a big campus. The county currently owns a 400,000 square building and about 80 acres, so a lot's possible on that. And so we'll be looking to hear from folks about what they think should happen there. So, I think we've covered the artists, creators, and makers cluster, the agriculture, food, and beverage cluster, and I'm going to drive us along to the third cluster that came out of the Ulster 2040 work, the health, wellness, and care cluster. This is one that I think the group, as we were finishing up the Ulster 2040 report in the summer of last year, we had a debate about whether or not to include a cluster that had to do with healthcare. But obviously, as the pandemic hit and as we took a break from the process and we all grappled with our personal situations in the first wave of the pandemic and then regrouped in June of last year, there was a consensus among that group that we could no longer debate whether or not the health, wellness, and care cluster should be included in our economic development strategy. It was pretty obvious that our community relies on our healthcare system in order to thrive, and that we need to recognize that not just in the work that we do to respond to the pandemic, but in our economic development work as well. And so we've chosen to engage in this cluster. It's our largest employer by industry, so it makes sense in that way too, but I think we are choosing to engage in a way that recognizes that health in our community is a function of not just our hospitals and our doctors, but of a whole range of organizations that promote health and wellness. And so, like with the manufacturing cluster, we recognize that especially coming out of the pandemic, there's a desperate challenge in terms of finding qualified workers for this cluster. And this is maybe a theme that you'll see emerge in our economic development work, that workforce development is a critical part, where in the past maybe access to infrastructure or access to capital were the challenges that held our businesses back. While those are still important, the access to people is a huge challenge. And so in this arena, we're trying to build the cluster by looking at what the workforce development needs are and aligning our workforce development programs with the needs of our healthcare and related businesses. And so we've been partnering with our Office of Employment and Training. Thomasine Oliphant is our director there and really experienced in this realm and has a great team that's helping us to engage with our healthcare providers. We have a survey that we've administered to most of them to collect information about what are the key positions that they're trying to fill, what are the credentials that they need for those positions, and are ultimately building out profiles for all of those positions so that we can align with our workforce partners like SUNY Ulster and with Ulster BOCES and even with our four-year institutions to make sure that we have the talent that we need to fill these positions. So exciting work there, and continue to engage with our healthcare providers as they come through the pandemic and understand better what their needs are. But I think we, as kind of testament to the fact that healthcare and wellness are broader than just our healthcare providers, we also see some physical activity in terms of building new spaces and improving spaces that go beyond the obvious project of Health Alliance's renovation and expansion of their hospital on Mary's Avenue. But I think, maybe a representative example of how this can be bigger than just the healthcare sector is thinking about the Landmark Place project that REPCO is undertaking out on Flatbush Avenue. This is representing a project that's similar to the Enterprise West project, where the Ulster County Economic Development Alliance played a key role in supporting the development of Landmark Place. This was a property that was formerly a county almshouse and was surplus to the Economic Development Alliance, which then enabled REPCO to purchase it and to develop what's now going to be supportive housing, which is an important need. I think we'll talk a little bit more about housing and the challenges that we face there. But ultimately, people need a place to live. They need a place that provides the supportive services that they need. And so we see this as an important part of our health care and wellness cluster. Pat, you want to add anything there?
Sure. Very quickly, sorry. The only other thing that I want to add here is that particularly as it relates to our federal relief, American Rescue Plan funds, this is another area where we know we have significant investment to make in our healthcare and our overall care part of our economy and really of our whole community. The other thing that I want to highlight is throughout the pandemic, we've seen devastating increases in mental health and substance use disorder rates. Our suicide rate in the county has essentially doubled at the peak of the pandemic, and our particular opioid-related and fentanyl-related overdoses have nearly doubled. And so as we come out of this, another area where we're absolutely planning to invest and hopefully put to use some of the federal funds is in the area of mental health and addiction and addressing what are many gaps in the continuum of care as it relates to that. So that will also reinforce this work from an economic development perspective, not just in providing jobs, in creating those spaces and employing workers in them, but also making sure to the idea of a people-centered economy that all of our residents and workers can be taken care of and healthy so that they can contribute to our community and to their places of work. And I'll hand it back to Tim for the next cluster.
All right, getting near the end here. The final cluster is actually one that I think the county exec will talk a little bit more about later this week. This is our clean energy and the environment cluster. Again, you'll see that there's a theme here. These are clusters that aren't only economic opportunities for us to grow our businesses, but really speak to kind of core values in our community, which I think is an important part of how we see moving forward with these and investing in these clusters in ways that accomplish the potential that we see over the next 10, 20 years. So in this clean energy and the environment cluster, there'll be an announcement on Thursday about the Green New Deal for Ulster County. I'm going to give a little preview, and I think we actually got permission to use the logo that will be released on Thursday. So really exciting news to come, but I think there's a lot of work going on in this arena. The alignment here is really on the key tenet of the Green New Deal that has to do with equitable growth. And so there's a lot of opportunity here for us to build new industries in our county that emphasize the challenge of responding to climate change and to meeting state and local goals for renewable energy. And we see opportunities both in the workforce development world, again, a theme that seems to come out pretty clearly in all these clusters. We need to build the workforce of the next couple decades that are going to be able to accomplish the infrastructure projects and the business goals that are necessary in order to accomplish our climate and energy goals for our community and for the state. And so we have a Green Careers Coalition that's really looking deeply at what are the careers of the future, how do we make sure that we have workers that are trained and prepared to enter those careers. We have a Green Summer Youth Internship program that'll give that opportunity to folks, younger folks in our community that are excited about these goals and want to figure out how to build a career around it. We are working to establish a couple of accelerator programs, recognizing that there are industries that will really be created as we invest more and more in our response to climate change, and feel that we're positioned here as a county and a region to be able to lead the way in those developing industries. And one in particular is our Water Solutions Accelerator. We're working with partners that include Sustainable Hudson Valley, GSEN, which is a social entrepreneurship incubator, and with environmental organizations like Riverkeeper, Clearwater, Scenic Hudson, and others, to establish really the first, hopefully, in the region and one of the only in the nation, accelerator programs that focuses on water. Water is such a key component of Ulster County and the Hudson Valley, both the Hudson River and our watershed properties up in the Catskills. And so there's a unique opportunity here that we seek to build into as we grow our economy. And ultimately, we'll also be gathering folks that consider themselves to be part of our green economy through an Ulster Green Economy Network. Once we can start doing events in person again, it'll be an opportunity to network with other folks that see themselves as involved in the green economy and work to build that economy together. Pat, do you want to add anything on this, I assume?
Yeah, and I know we want to be mindful of time. As you can tell, there's a lot here that we're doing and that we're excited to share, but I just want to give one very specific example of what this will look like in Ulster County, because I think it's easy to sort of lose that amidst all the different programs. Again, looking at the federal relief dollars, one of my goals is to specifically use those funds to retrofit and upgrade energy efficiency in about 1,000 homes in the county. There are over 10,000 homes that desperately need energy retrofit, which will both improve the quality and the value of the home for folks in our county, but also make them much more energy efficient and contributing much less greenhouse gas. The work to upgrade those homes provides hundreds and hundreds of good paying construction and building trades jobs in the county. So again, the idea of the Green New Deal as an economic prospect is not just to protect our economy, or our environment, excuse me, but to really turbocharge our economy while we do it by providing good paying quality work for folks to do that work. Programs like Youth Build and as well as all of the leaders in our building and construction industry will greatly benefit from that work. I'm also going to quickly transition to the last area. So we want to make sure we just take 2 minutes to hit on this. We talked about these 4 specific clusters where, as you can see, there's a lot of work and investment that we're doing and planning to make, and we could go much longer on that for anybody that's interested and wants to get involved. The other thing that our 2040 report recognized is that beyond specific industry and business supports and investment, we really have to invest in the social and economic infrastructure layer of our county. Because, as Tim said earlier, no business or organization can really thrive and succeed if our people aren't taken care of, if they can't afford a place to live, a place for child care, where they can be confident that their children are taken care of, and afford and have transportation to get to and from that work. So we're going to be making a series of investments in housing, in child care, and in our transportation systems to make sure that all of our workers and by extension our businesses are supported. When I talk to our business leaders, and I just had another one of these conversations last week, the number one thing I hear over and over is, I need good quality folks to come and work and be part of my workforce. And one of the biggest barriers is they can't afford to live here, they maybe can't afford to get to and from work, and they're worried that their kids aren't being taken care of while they work. One specific issue that I want to highlight to that and really hammer home, and I appreciate Sawyer Savings tackling the affordability around first-time home buyers, is housing right now in our county. We just released a more than 100-page housing action plan, which I'd invite you all to look at. The chart that I'm going to put up here has a lot of numbers and data. If you want to screen capture it, feel free. But the high-level takeaway is that right now we did a comparison of actual live MLS listings in our real estate economy in the county. And right now, only 8% of the active listings in Ulster County are affordable to the majority of people living in the county. We looked at area median area median income and essentially realize that most of our housing stock is out of reach of most of our residents. And again, that's something that we really have to tackle head on and that our housing action plan addresses. The other piece is renters. Increasingly, renters make up a larger and larger part of our economy, and it's the same thing here. This graph will show that for the average worker in our county, they would, if they're earning average wages in the county, they'd have to work 67 hours per week just to be able to afford what is the fair market rent set by the federal government. And you could argue that that fair market rent at $11.55 is actually lower than what most of the rents are for a two-bedroom around Ulster County right now. So there's a lot of work that we all have to do to make sure we address this housing pressure that really 70–80% of our residents are experiencing. It's not a small segment of our population. It's the vast majority. So our housing action plan addresses that key part of our really social and economic infrastructure. I won't go in detail, but we'll just put up the 5 recommendations of that housing action plan. And really the signature project and initiative here, in addition to the work that's already been done by partners like RUPCO at Energy Squared and Landmark Place, our newest one that we'll continue work on this year is actually demolishing our old county jail at Golden Hill and building workforce and senior housing there, approximately 200 units of that. And the way that I think about this, especially coming out of the pandemic, is if you were willing to risk your life as a EMT or a nurse or a grocery store clerk, as a frontline worker, if you were willing to risk your life for our community this last year, you better be able to afford to live in the county that you risked your life to protect, and too many people can't do that right now. So we're gonna address that as well, in addition to these specific investments in these clusters that we talked about. So for the very last slide, I'm gonna hand it back to Tim to talk about how you can get involved. I'll just end by saying, number one, thank you for being here and listening, virtually in this case. Number two, we want you to be involved in helping to drive this. This only works if the community's bought in, if it's driven by bottom-up ideas, and we're excited to adjust our plan as needed based on your input. And Tim's gonna talk about how you can do that.
Yep, just quickly, our link is a little long, but ulstercountiny.gov/economic development, and you can get reports and information, but most importantly, there's a link there where you can sign up to get more information and to get involved. And in particular, we're trying to find businesses that align with these clusters and engage them in discussions about how we should pursue the projects that we've described here, and then future projects that will invest in those clusters to help grow them. And so we'll be having roundtable discussions already, scheduling those, starting with our manufacturing cluster, and look to have more of those throughout the year as we engage with our businesses, and through that, identify challenges and opportunities that we can work on together. So I think with that, I'll wrap it up and thank everyone for their time. It's good to be back at a chamber breakfast, even if it's not quite the same, but hopefully it will be again soon.
Thank you both very much, Pat and Tim, for your time this morning and for your leadership during these challenging times. You do have an open invitation to return at any time to bring us up to date and to help our members understand better your wonderful work at the county level. Again, thanks to our sponsor, Sawyer Savings Bank. Thanks, Doug, for being with us today. Thanks to Radio Kingston for your exceptional technical support. Thanks to our great hosts here at the venue Uptown, and finally a word of gratitude to the Chamber's outstanding corporate sponsors for 2021. These are our corporate leaders. We thank them so much for helping our Chamber. This is a list of our corporate partners. These are our corporate supporters. And these are our sustaining sponsors. When you see them, when you visit them, when you shop, when you're in their region, thank them for their sponsorship and their support of the Chamber. We thank them for their continued support. We couldn't do it without you. A reminder, join us May 25th for our next virtual breakfast meeting. Our program is Ulster County offers world-class outdoor recreational opportunities. We all want to get outdoors, so we've got guest speakers from Walkway Over the Hudson, from Mohawk Preserve, and from County Tourism talking about the great trails that are out there. So be sure to join us on Tuesday, May 25th. Ending our program, as always, with some good news. This is great news. The state just yesterday increased capacity from 20 to 33% now for our movie theaters effective April 26th. Great news for NCG here in Ulster County. And meanwhile, museums and other low-risk indoor and outdoor arts and entertainment venues will be able to operate at up to 50% capacity also as of April 26th. So that's great. Please get out, support your local businesses and organizations. They really, really need your help. And finally, on May 19th, indoor arenas with more than 10,000 seats can increase their capacity to 25%, up from the current 10%. And who knows, a larger crowd might even help the Yankees start winning this year. Is there a chance? Possibly. I know. It is. That's our program for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Learn more about your Chamber of Commerce at ulsterchamber.org. Stay safe and be well.